Hey plant people, how are you doing? Hope you're doing well. My name is Paula and this is Passion for Plants. Many of you have probably gone to those places that sell bulk soil, with the piles of different types of soil. And you might get confused as to what's the difference between all the different piles. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, soil is made up mostly of rock that has been broken down. So you could say that rock is the parent material of soil. So you have the sedimentary and you have the igneous rocks that break down. They get weathered. They break down into little particles, pebbles and sand and clay, silt. And then they get moved around by the weather, either rain or some kind of river or some wind or something like that will move it around. So then you get piles and piles of this broken down soil, and that is the basic of soil. That's the basic part of soil. Now, some people would call that dirt, simply because it doesn't really support life. So plants can't really use that mineral stuff the way it is. But while the soil is being eroded and weathered and moved around by the weather, different kinds of plant, sloughed off plant material gets mixed into the rock. So that is your organics, your organic part of the soil, and that's the part that the plants will use mostly. The difference between fill dirt and topsoil is all because of these organics. So your fill dirt is made up of mostly rock, broken down rock, and it has almost no organics in it, and it can't really support plant life that well. It may have a little bit of organics in it, but it won't be able to support healthy plant growth. The topsoil now has, those leaves, twigs, and whatever else has fallen from plants and become decomposed. Now it's like sort of a natural compost. So, now you have organic material that's mixed in with the dirt that can support plant life. So that's the difference between the fill dirt and topsoil. Fill dirt will be cheap because there's lots and lots of it. You just dig deep enough and you will find, just dirt. But the topsoil is a little bit more expensive because, it's becoming depleted in a lot of places of the earth right now because we've grown our own food and we've eaten that food and we haven't really replenished the organics in the topsoil. And so the topsoil has become thinner and thinner. And there are people who are actually worried about the depth of topsoil in the earth. So topsoil will cost you a little bit more, but you have to be careful because not all topsoil is the same. Some will have a lot more organic material in it than others. Some will have a lot of weed seeds. Some will have less weed seeds, but most of it will have weed seeds. And then, so that's the difference between your just basic, bulk topsoil and those bagged soils. The bagged soils are very expensive because things have been done to the soil to make it even better. So it's been sterilized, so there's no germ, disease organisms have been killed off. The weed seeds have been killed off, and maybe it has some additives We won't talk about additives in this video, but I will make another video about the additives that you can, amendments I should call them, not additives. The amendments to the soil are the things that really make plants grow like crazy, okay? Because they have all the things that plants like around their roots. So, okay, the different types of soil now are sort of your sandy soil and your clayey soil. And the finer the particles, the more compacted they can become. So you'll find a soil, even though it's labeled topsoil, it may have quite a bit of sand in it. It may become very heavy and compactable. And so it's not really good for a container. And I wouldn't even put it in a raised bed myself either. And the clay soils, well, you know clay, you've probably seen clay, how it really becomes compacted. So if you have a clayey soil, you want to put in something that will prevent it from being compacted like that. Now, organic material can, reduce the amount of compaction you will get. But there are things that you can add, which are like your perlite. Perlite is expensive because it's a man-made thing. Perlite and vermiculite are both things that will prevent that compaction from happening. So that's why we use that kind of soil in a container or a raised bed, because in a container you don't very often get earthworms. Earthworms will sort of help, the soil not to become compacted. In a raised beds you might get some worms, but there again you might not. It's not the natural ground, so the earthworms may not come into your raised bed. And you don't want compacted soil because plant roots, your vegetable roots, the vegetables you're trying to grow, or your ornamental plants that you're trying to grow, are not going to be able to put their roots down into a heavy or compacted soil. So this is why we tend to pay more for that bagged soil, because it makes life easier. It's not got any weed seeds, and it's already the right consistency, let's say, that it won't become compacted very easily. So the difference between the cheaper soils and the more expensive soils, I'll go over it again. The cheaper the soil, the more likely you are to have low organics, the presence of disease organisms, and the presence of weed seeds. As you go up higher and higher in price, your soil is going to, become more organic, but not too much, because there's a balance, right? So there'll be more organics, and the more you pay, the more likely it is that the soil has been sterilized. Sorry, my husband is doing something in the background there. So the higher in price you go, the more likely it is that your soil is sterilized from disease organisms, and it will be freer of weed seeds. Now, some companies also do testing, so they will test for undesirable minerals, things you don't want to put in your mouth as food. They might be poisonous or just not very good for you. So some companies will do testing to make sure that there are no undesirable minerals or components in the soil. All right, so I think we've covered most of everything there that I want to do in this video anyway. And I'm going to make another one. So the next one coming out will be about amendments and changing the pH of your soil and good stuff like that. Okay, so thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!